Hello and welcome. My name is Waldo and I have a hydraulic cylinder that has a massive leak. This is it. It's the cylinder for the right stabilizer, which stabilizes the machine while the backhoe is in use. In this video, I am determined to get the seals replaced no matter how much of a bear it is. If you're new to the channel, this is Dynahoe, my 1978 Dynahoe 160 tractor-loader-backhoe. I have a playlist where you can find all of my videos of Dynahoe where I did a bunch of work on him to get him running and functioning. For those of you who need an introduction, that's the big scoopy thing up front, that's the small scoopy thing in the back, and here in the middle is the command center where you sit and pull all the levers. Now onto the hydraulic cylinder. I've known for a while now that the cylinder was going to need a reseal because it would creep down all on its own. Currently, I have it held up by a chain, but if I removed the chain, it would fall down in a matter of seconds. The first thing I need to do is gain access to the cylinder end cap, which is behind this shield here, so let's get to work. The chain is actually using the guard to hold this up, so I'm going to take the weight off of this chain using a ratchet strap. Can you believe this thing was sold as an optional extra? I can't imagine not having this, because if you're digging and dropping rocks and dirt and stuff near the exposed rod, you could really cause some damage. So yeah, this thing is worth its weight in gold, probably. That thing's pretty heavy. Alright, so I want to measure the end cap here so that I can make a tool that'll fit around this and fit into these grooves. That'll help me get this thing off. And also, while I have it up here, there are two set screws that I need to remove, which will loosen the grip on these threads so that I can get this off more easily. This one here, there's actually one on the other side here. I guess I'll get that one when I put it back down, but I'll get this one while it's up. That's the pattern. It's got 6 little indentations. Actually, I didn't really draw the one on this side, but that's all right, we'll figure it out. Alright, so the next step is to remove this end cap. That will allow me to disassemble this cylinder so that I can get at the seals. The last one of these that I did, I released a video on that earlier this year, and that was for the boom cylinder, which is actually a larger cylinder. And in order to get this apart, I had to fabricate a special tool. I actually had to make multiple iterations of that tool to get it to work right. And then it actually took over 1,000 foot-pounds of torque to get the cap off of that cylinder. Now, this cylinder is a little bit smaller, so maybe it'll take less torque, but I don't know. So I'm going to use what I learned last time to fabricate a better tool that'll hopefully work on the first try, but we'll see what happens. All right, so let's get this tool cut out with the plasma cutter. I have the shape drawn out with a Sharpie, so I'm just gonna cut it out. And here it is. I did a bunch of grinding on it to make it fit. And it fits over like that, so fairly well. So up next, I'm going to add a piece of pipe over here so I can get some leverage on this thing. All right, so I'm going to cut a slot in this pipe so that I can slide it over this, and then I'll weld it on there. For this, I'm going to use my new Milwaukee metal cutting circular saw. This thing actually seems pretty cool. One of the notable features is that it actually has a storage compartment for all of the metal shavings, which is especially handy if you're cutting indoors. I have to say, I usually use yellow tools, especially when it comes to battery-powered tools, but these red Milwaukee tools, they are pretty high quality. Let's see how this thing does. That was really easy. I went way slower than I needed to just to be careful, but this thing went through that like a hot knife through butter. Really cool. I'll include a link to this in the description. If you click that link and purchase this, or anything else on Amazon for that matter, I earn a small but meaningful commission, which really helps me to keep creating content like this. Alright, so I feel really dumb. I just went to go test fit this off camera just to see how it would fit, and look what happened. It's basically just hand tight. Now, I don't know if that's because I loosened up the set screws and it really just comes off that easily, or maybe it wasn't tightened up enough to begin with, but I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like I just went and spent hours making this tool for nothing. That being said, I am going to use this to tighten it up when I put it back on, because I feel like it should be tighter than that. It was pretty loose. In any case, at least it's coming off easily, so I guess I didn't really lose anything except for maybe a little bit of time, but well, that part is done. Alright, so this is my wacky setup to get this rod out. So I have it hooked up to the tractor, which is going to pull it in that direction. And here I have a couple layers of corrugated cardboard so that when it does come out, it'll land on the cardboard rather than on the metal leg underneath it, so because we really don't want to damage the rod or the piston. And then if it falls down onto the ground, which is a good chance it will, I have a tarp out here which will hopefully you know, keep it from getting too dirty. So I don't know, let's see how this goes. Alright, well, it made a little bit of a mess. That's not too surprising, but hey, it worked. That worked great. Alright, so I have the rod rigged up so that it won't twist when I try to get this nut off on the end. As for the nut itself, it's actually recessed inside the piston, which is really annoying. It's kind of a small nut as well, and you can also see that somebody else has taken this off before, and they did bend it a little bit. So I got out my 3/4 inch impact with my 2-inch impact socket, and I hope that this is going to be enough to get this nut off. Give a good push in so it doesn't come out and mess up the nut. Easy peasy. Nice. So far, this cylinder is it's going so well. I mean, I'm not superstitious or anything. If I were, I'd probably be jinxing myself. But yeah, no, I'm super happy with how this is going. Now, I've never disassembled one of these before, but I assume this will just come right off. Yep. It's got a seal or an O-ring inside there. That's definitely going to need replacing. Come right off. Wow, that is just... I might have a hard time measuring this because these seals in here are just absolute toast. They're disintegrated inside there. Alright, so let's get these seals measured so I can order new ones. I'll start with the piston. So this and this, these are piston wear rings. They're generally made of glass reinforced nylon. And in this case, they are 1/2 inch wide. And they are about 1/8 inch thick. In the middle here is the actual seal. Let me grab a pick and I'll see if I can get this thing out. I've never actually done this before, so I don't exactly know what I'm doing, but it's I'm starting to get it out. So this is the outer part of it by the looks of it, and then there's also an inner part here. The inner part is a much softer rubber by the feel of it. It's like a square O-ring. The width of this seal is about 0.285 or thereabouts. I don't think the O-ring behind it matters, but that's 0.211. Now I know that the diameter of this piston is 4 inches, so I'm just going to measure the depth of this groove. And it comes to about 0.266 inches. Now at the end of the rod where the piston bolts on, there's an O-ring which seals between the rod and the piston, so I also need to replace this. Now the diameter of the rod here is 1.25 inches, and the thickness of the O-ring is approximately 1/8 inch. Alright, so next we'll do the head of the cylinder. This is what has the rod wiper and the rod seals inside of there, and also the head seal here. We'll start with the head seal because that's the easiest. It's got an O-ring and a backup ring. So this groove diameter is about 0.244. And the depth is about 0.106. So inside the head, you can see right here on the top is the rod wiper. Now this is a press fit wiper, which means it's made of polyurethane, but there's a piece of steel molded into it, a steel ring that goes around, which makes it very rigid so that basically it won't come out very easily. You have to press fit it in. And then getting it out, well, I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to get it out. I'll try to punch it out or something first. We'll see if that works. Down below this, you can see that there are 2 seals, and right in here you can see that how much damage there is. Like, they just disintegrated. There's an O-ring that's still intact, so I'm going to take these out. It'll probably be pretty easy to get them out. I guess the question is, once I get them out, will I still be able to identify them and measure them so that I can replace them, or am I just going to have to replace them with just something that fits? So yeah, we'll see what happens. Oh goodness, yeah, no, it just kind of comes right apart. Get the O-ring out. And then as for the top one, looks like it's holding together a little bit better. Only a little bit. So yeah, it doesn't look like the top one has an O-ring, but the bottom one did have an O-ring. Alright, so maybe I'll throw this in the bench vise with some padding and see if I can get the rod wiper out. Yeah, so the wiper was not too hard to get out. First I was able to separate the polyurethane bit from the metal bit. That came out pretty easily. And then while the metal bit was still in, I basically just took a punch, banged the side of it until I was able to get a pair of vice grips on the side, and then I was able to grab that and just kind of pull it out. So pretty easy. So these wipers are pretty standard sizes, so I may not even have to measure this, but I guess just for the fun of it, look like, yeah, that's exactly 3 inches, the groove diameter, and then the groove depth is 0.324 inches.
Several days later.
Well, here we are. So I have a bag full of parts from McMaster Car. Sorts of seals and O-rings and stuff. So I guess I'll start with the piston. So what I need for this is this seal here. It's got the square O-ring and the outer seal. And then as for the nylon wear rings, they didn't actually have any wear rings that were 1/2 inch thick. So I had to order some wear ring stock, I guess, just kind of a roll of it, and I'll cut it to be the right size that I need. So I'm just going to cut it right about here. Oh yeah, it works great. Well, that looks like that's a pretty good fit. That's pretty good. All right. Then there's this seal here. So the square O-ring goes on first. Nice and careful not to ruin it, because it is rubber. It's fairly soft material. There we go, and that's in place. And then this blue seal goes on top of that. The material is quite a bit harder, so it's not really going to stretch very much. This might be a little challenging. Well, that was easy. Okay. This kind of reminds me of trying to get a tire on a lawnmower wheel. That seal is in place. And then lastly, I have an O-ring. Unfortunately, I had to buy like a 50 pack or something like that of O-rings because they didn't sell them. No, it's a 100 pack because they didn't sell them individually, but that's all right. They were not too expensive. And this O-ring fits right here on the end of the piston. And there's the finished piston, all resealed. All right, so we'll start with the rod seals, which go inside the head here. Now this is the tricky part. So obviously these are too big to just fit in like this. So typically what you do is you make kind of like a kidney shape and then you can fit it in. It worries me because I really don't want to damage this seal though. I'm not sure if this is actually meant to be installed this way. I wonder if I can get it in part way and then do the whole kidney shaped thing with what's left over here. Now, luckily there aren't any sharp edges, at least on this part of it, so I don't have to worry about that. Oh, that was actually really easy. That just kind of fit in. Yeah, that was easy. I guess one thing to note, both of these seals have flared edges on one side, and the flared edges go on the pressure side, so they go in the direction of the cylinder. And then the other one goes in the same way, except it goes on the other side, so I'm going to try it here. I got a zip tie ready. That might work. Zip tie in there. Pull it tight, but not too tight. Hey, I think I got it. Look at that. So yeah, we got this thing here. So let's see, it goes in this way. Oops. Oh, no, that's probably okay. All right. So got my little snippers ready. So let's get this thing in, and now I cut this. Let's see if this hopefully goes the way I want it to go. Hey, look at that. Fantastic. And I even installed it in the correct orientation. Beautiful. So next, let's install this rod wiper. Goes in this way, and it's a press fit. So I guess, well, this is why I have a hydraulic press, isn't it? So I'm just going to use a piece of 3/8 inch plate to press this in. Nice. Perfect. Beautiful. That was easy as pie. Lastly, I guess you have to replace the seal that seals between the head and the barrel of the cylinder. Now, previously there was an O-ring and a backup ring in this groove. I'm going to replace it with a one-piece seal, which is intended for this application, and they actually say that this is an improvement over having an O-ring and a backup ring. Yeah, pretty easy to install. Alright, so let's get this rod and piston assembly reassembled. So first I'm going to lubricate the seals with some hydraulic oil that I have here. We'll get the head on now. There we go. There we go. Alright. So with the cylinder head on the rod, next I can install the piston. I'm actually just going to slide the O-ring onto the rod itself, because I'm afraid that if I do it with the O-ring installed on the piston, it might get damaged by these threads since they are pretty sharp. There we go. That slides right on. And then the nut, I'll only be able to get this on a little ways because I am going to need my impact for it. And that's that. I'm going to bring this outside, get this nut tightened up with the impact wrench, and then get this rod installed back into the hydraulic cylinder. Back out a little bit and throw the nylon wear ring on there. Alright, so to compress this seal, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of the old seals to put over it, and then I'm going to use a hose clamp over that. It'll compress it, I should be able to slide it right on. See if that works. Yes, that worked great. Perfect. Get this hose clamp back off and I can put on the second wear ring and get this puppy back in service. So next, to get the cylinder head onto the cylinder, I'm just going to put a little bit of hydraulic oil on this seal here for lubrication. Alright, cool. Yeah. Once the thread's engaged on this, I can use the end cap here to just kind of pull the head into place. And this is where my tool comes in handy. Alright, that's pretty tight there. Yeah, we're not quite lining up here, so I guess I'll just use the machine to retract the cylinder, the bed, and then I can get these to line up. Now, so these hydraulic hoses are at the end of their useful lives. They are shot. So luckily last week I ordered some new hoses from discounthydraulichoses.com. Now they are not a channel sponsor, although I kind of wish they were, because I order from them kind of a lot. And yeah, they have good products at a good price, so I recommend it. Yeah, these hoses were 30 bucks a piece for 45-inch long hydraulic hoses, and then we got a 1/2-inch JIC connectors on both ends. And yeah, they probably would have been twice this price if I went to the local hydraulic shop. And don't get me wrong, the local hydraulic shop is great if I need a hose right now, if they're open, that is. But if you can afford to wait a little bit, you know, might as well save some money. Fish these things through without getting them covered in oily dirt. Well, the machine has been sitting here for some time now, and the stabilizer is still holding it off the ground. Not only was this a success, but it also went way smoother than I expected. Seriously, after working on the boom cylinder, I was dreading having to work on this one, but now I'm feeling a lot more confident in my ability to work on hydraulic cylinders. My next video is going to be on the Cummins swap. I've been working on that while I waited for seals to come in, and things are going really well. It looks like I'll have to fabricate a custom radiator fan shroud, so I already picked up a 4x8 sheet of aluminum, and I'll be trying aluminum TIG welding for the first time, so stay tuned for that. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. Thank you for watching.